Welcome to another far-reaching conversation.
Today, we're tackling something really fundamental in federal acquisitions.
That's right. We're going to unpack the key differences in how you actually order things under two major sections of the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or FAR.
Specifically, we're comparing FAR Subpart 8.4, which covers the GSA Schedules Program, you can call that MAS,
Yes, got it.
and FAR Subpart 16.5, which deals with the more traditional indefinite delivery contracts, or IDIQs.
Okay. Now let's talk about competition. Especially with multiple award IDIQs being so common now, competition doesn't just stop once the main contracts are awarded.
No, not at all. That's where the concept of fair opportunity really comes into play for FAR 16.5.
Explain that a bit. What does fair opportunity mean in practice here?
So if you have a multiple award IDIQ for any order you plan to place that's over the micro-purchase threshold,
Okay, threshold again.
yes, over that small amount, the agency has to provide every single awardee a fair opportunity to be considered for that specific order.
It's an active requirement for each order.
It is. It's the core competition principle for ordering under these multiple award 16.5 vehicles.
And what happens when the order value climbs higher, say above the simplified acquisition threshold, the SAT? Does that change the process?
It does. It ramps up the requirements. For orders over the SAT, you generally need more formal competitive procedures, meaning things like providing fair notice of the requirement to all the contract holders, giving them a reasonable chance to submit an offer or proposal for that specific task order.
So more documentation, more process.
Generally, yes. You need to be able to show you gave everyone that fair shot and how you made your selection for that order.
Now here's something that often surprises people. The rules around protesting these orders.
Ah, yes. This is a big one strategically. While you can typically protest the initial award of the main IDIQ contract itself,
Right.
orders placed under that FAR 16.5 contract are generally not subject to protest at, say, the GAO.
It's generally not protestable. That seems like a huge deal.
It is. But, like many things in the FAR, there are important exceptions. You can protest an order if you believe it goes beyond the scope of the original contract, or extends the period of performance, or busts through the maximum value.
Okay, so scope, period, or ceiling violations are grounds.
Correct. And there's also a dollar threshold exception. Orders over $10 million are generally protestable.
10 million.
And that jumps to $25 million if it's a Department of Defense, NASA, or Coast Guard contract. So big dollar orders can still face protests.
Now let's switch gears to the other path. FAR 8.4, the GSA Schedules Program, or MAS. This is under FAR Part 8, which covers required sources of supplies and services.
And here's maybe the most crucial point right up front. The rules within FAR Subpart 8.4, the GSA's specific regulations for MAS, actually take precedence over the general IDIQ rules in FAR Subpart 16.5.
Wait, say that again. 8.4 rules trump 16.5 rules when you're using schedules?
Essentially, yes. If there's a conflict or a different procedure specified in 8.4 for ordering off a schedule, that's the rule you follow, not the general 16.5 rule. That precedence is what unlocks the streamlining.
Okay, that is key. So how does that play out? What are the big advantages or differences that stem from this?
Well, probably the single biggest administrative shortcut relates to pricing. It's huge
Pricing, how so?
because GSA, when they originally award these mass contracts, has already determined that the prices for the supplies and the fixed price services or rates listed on this schedule are fair and reasonable. Now, you still have an obligation, particularly for orders over the SAT, to seek additional price reductions or discounts off the schedule price.
Okay, still need to try for a better deal.
Right. You still need to ensure you're getting best value, but you're starting from a baseline where the fundamental price reasonableness is already established by GSA.
That's a major departure from many other contract types.
It is. And it leads directly to the next big aha moment, which is about competition itself.
Okay.
If you follow the specific ordering procedures laid out in FAR 8.4,
The ones we'll get into.
yes, then the resulting order, or blanket purchase agreement, a BPA, is legally considered to have been placed using full and open competition, even though you only competed it among potentially a few schedule holders.
Considered full and open competition just by following the 8.4 steps.
That's the power of the schedules program. And that designation is what allows you to bypass huge chunks of the FAR.
Okay, let's unpack that. If it's already considered full and open, what parts of the FAR do you get to skip when using MAS?
This is where the real efficiency comes in. You generally do not have to comply with FAR Part 14, which is sealed bidding. At FAR Part 15, contracting by negotiation.
That's the big one, right? With source selection plans, discussions, competitive ranges.
Exactly. All that complex Part 15 process, largely inapplicable to mass orders.
Yeah.
You also generally skip FAR Part 13, simplified acquisition procedures, except for a small part dealing with micro purchases.
Okay.
And significantly, most of the requirements in FAR Part 19 related to small business programs don't automatically apply at the order level, although agencies can choose to set aside orders for small businesses under mass.
How do the actual ordering steps differ? Let's start with a simple case under FAR 8.4. Ordering supplies, no complex statement of work involved.
Right. It's tiered based on the dollar value of the order.
Makes sense. What's the first tier?
For orders at or below the micro purchase threshold, it's super simple. You can basically just place the order with any mass contractor that meets your needs.
Anyone.
Yeah, though the FAR encourages distributing these small orders among contractors if you can, but procedurally, it's very straightforward.
Okay, simple enough. What about the next level up? Orders above micropurchase, but still below the SAT, the simplified acquisition threshold.
Okay, here, the rules tighten slightly. The ordering activity needs to reasonably ensure they're getting best value. The typical way is to survey at least 3 mass contractors through the GSA system or by reviewing catalogs or price lists.
Survey 3.
Or you could request quotes from at least 3 scheduled contractors.
And you need to document that you looked at 3.
You need to document your process, yes. And if for some reason you only looked at, say, 1 or 2, you need to document the justification for restricting consideration like that. Maybe only 1 or 2 had the specific item you needed.
So comparison shopping among at least 3 is the standard procedure there.
Exactly. It's about demonstrating you looked around a bit before placing the order.
Now the big jump, orders above the SAT, how does mass handle those?
Once you cross the SAT, the competition requirements become more formal, even under mass. The order must be placed on a competitive basis.
And how do you satisfy that competitive basis requirement?
There are basically 2 main ways outlined. The preferred method is to post your request for quotation, your RFQ, on GSA's online portal, eBuy. That automatically notifies relevant schedule holders.
Okay, use eBuy. What's the alternative?
Alternatively, you could provide the RFQ directly to enough mass contractors so that you can reasonably expect to get responses from at least 3 of them.
So, you need to ensure you solicit enough to likely get 3 quotes back.
Right. And if you send it out and you receive fewer than 3 quotes back, you need to prepare a written determination explaining your efforts to get 3 and why you're proceeding with fewer.
So even above the SAT, it's still streamlined compared to Part 15, but there's a clear competitive expectation focused on getting at least 3 quotes.
Precisely. It's more structured than just fair opportunity under 16.5, but far less complex than a full negotiated procurement.
Okay, that covers supplies. What if we're ordering services under mass, especially hourly rate services where you need a statement of work, an SOW?
Yes. Services with an SOW, particularly time and materials or labor hour type orders. That adds another layer. First, the SOW itself needs to be solid.
What needs to be in it?
The usual suspects. A clear description of the work, where it will be performed, the period of performance, any deliverables, acceptance criteria or standards, and ideally, it should be performance-based if possible.
Standard good SOW writing.
Exactly. Now, when ordering these services, especially if the order is above the SAT,
Right, above the threshold again.
you follow that same competitive process we just discussed. Post the RFQ, including the SOW, on eBuy, or send it to enough contractors to anticipate at least 3 quotes.
Okay, same solicitation process, but the evaluation must be different if there's an SOW involved, right?
Absolutely. Because it's not just about picking the lowest preset price anymore. The ordering agency must evaluate the quotes or proposals based on the factors specified in the RFQ.
And those factors would likely include?
Typically, you'd see factors like the contractor's relevant experience, their past performance on similar tasks, and of course, the price or cost. For hourly rate orders, you also need to make sure the overall price is reasonable by considering the mix of labor proposed and the level of effort.
So a mini source selection almost, but still within the streamlined 8.4 framework.
You could think of it that way. It's a best value determination tailored to the specific service requirement described in the SOW.
Okay, let's touch on limiting competition under both systems. Sometimes you really do have only one source that can do the job, or there's urgency. How do 8.4 and 16.5 handle sole sourcing or restricting competition?
Both require a written justification if you're not going to compete it fully, but they use slightly different terminology and justifications.
How does FAR 16.5 frame it?
Under 16.5, these are called exceptions to the fair opportunity process.
Exceptions to fair opportunity. Like what?
Things like extreme urgency Only one awardee is capable. Due to unique skills or specialized equipment, it's a logical follow-on to an order that was previously competed fairly.
Logical follow-on is a common one.
Or it's necessary to meet the minimum guarantee in the contract, or maybe there's a statute that requires using a specific source.
Okay, a defined list of exceptions in 16.5. How about under FAR 8.4, the mass side?
FAR 8.4 talks about justifications for a restricting consideration rather than exceptions to fair opportunity.
Restricting consideration. Similar reasons.
Largely similar, yes. Urgency, only one source capable. Logical follow-on, again, only if the original order wasn't sole source itself. But 8.4 has an interesting one specific to brand names.
Brand names.
Yes. If you need to require a specific brand name item, even if that brand is available from multiple mass contractors, you still need to prepare a separate justification explaining why only that specific brand will meet the government's needs.
So even if multiple vendors sell the same brand on schedules, you need to justify insisting on that brand.
Correct. That brand name justification is the specific requirement under 8.4 when you restrict the purchase that way. It's an easy one to miss.
Okay, let's try to synthesize this for everyone listening. The technical details are important, but what's the core strategic difference they need to grasp?
Well, I think it boils down to this. FAR 8.4, the mass route, is really optimized for speed and administrative ease.
Because GSA did the upfront work on price and competition.
Exactly. It lets agencies leverage that work, bypass cumbersome procedures like Part 15, and move faster. It relies heavily on the integrity of that initial schedule award process.
And FAR 16.5.
FAR 16.5, the traditional IDIQ, while also allowing for flexible ordering, keeps more of the competitive burden at the order level through the fair opportunity requirement. It has those stricter structural elements like minimum guarantees and specific protest rules for orders. It's maybe a bit more formally structured at the order stage.
So mass offers speed through pre-vetting, while IDIQ offers flexibility with order-level competition rules.
That's a good way to put it. The streamlined nature of mass is undeniably efficient.
But that efficiency comes from trusting GSA's initial work, doesn't it?
It does. It fundamentally rests on the idea that the schedule prices are fair and the initial competition to get on schedule was robust.
Which leads us to our final thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
When you're dealing with something really complex, maybe a critical service where the requirements might evolve or technical nuances are paramount, does the undeniable speed and administrative ease of the mass acquisition pathway always outweigh the potential benefits of the deeper order-specific competitive review, potential for negotiation, and detailed evaluation you might undertake using a FAR 16.5 IDIQ?
Something to think about: when does pure speed potentially trade off against customized order-level scrutiny? A great question for acquisition strategy.
Indeed. It depends entirely on the requirement and the risks involved.
If you find these podcasts helpful, then reach far for that subscribe button.